Evening light pooled across the polished floors of Iron Path Dojo, the smell of pine mats and sweat drifting through open windows. Students moved in a crisp rhythm, white uniforms flashing, belts snapping through the air. At the center, visiting. Champion Derek Mason demonstrated a flurry of strikes that drew small gasps from the beginners. Cameras hovered, a couple of teens whispered about his viral videos. His presence filled the room the way thunder fills the sky, loud, impressive, impossible to ignore. By the wall, sweeping stray chalk from the boards, stood Serena Coleman. She wore loose black joggers and a plain t-shirt, hair pulled into a low bun, movements efficient and quiet. Most people thought she was a maintenance staff. She never corrected them. A part-time job kept her training affordable. Humility cost nothing. When Derek ended his demonstration, laughter rolled through the class. "Anyone feel brave enough to test a champion?" he said, half joking. Silence. Then his eyes caught the woman with the broom. "You," he grinned. "Want to have some fun?" The chatter broke into uneasy giggles. Serena paused, then set the broom gently against the wall. No smile, no challenge, just calm composure. She bowed once to Sensei Ito, who watched with unreadable eyes, then stepped barefoot onto the mat. The air changed. Even Derek's grin flickered. They squared off. His stance broadcast confidence. Hers, stillness. The first rush came fast. He lunged. She pivoted, redirected, and his own momentum nearly carried him off balance. The watching students gasped. He reset, cheeks red, mask of humor cracking. Another charge, another effortless deflection. The sound of his fall was soft, like cloth folding. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. He thought he was testing strength. She was testing respect. Sensei Ito clapped once. "Again," he said quietly. Derek nodded, jaw tight. The room held its breath. Serena's focus never wavered. Years of military self-defense training lived behind those calm eyes, a discipline born not of violence, but of protection. She hadn't planned to fight tonight. She'd planned to finish cleaning before the bus home. But lessons have their own timing. The second match lasted less than 20 seconds. Derek attacked with a textbook combination: speed, power, precision. She read every move like familiar handwriting, a sidestep, a redirect, a subtle lock, and he was on the mat again, this time staring upward, disbelief painted across his face. The silence stretched until Sensei Ito bowed to her. The class followed. She bowed back and quietly stepped away. No celebration, no triumph, just respect. When the crowd dispersed, Derek remained kneeling. "What just happened?" someone whispered. "She didn't even hit him." Another replied, "Because she didn't need to." Later in the locker hallway, Derek found her wiping down equipment. "You practice somewhere?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Used to," she said. "Different kind of training." Then she left, leaving him alone with the echo of humility. Over the next week, whispers turned to stories. The clip from someone's phone hit local feeds. Champion dropped in 5 seconds by janitor. Comments ranged from shock to admiration. Derek scrolled through them in bed. The word respect, repeating like a mantra he hadn't learned yet. He'd spent years mastering applause. She'd spent years mastering control. Only one knew the difference. Determined to redeem himself, he returned to the dojo early the next morning. Serena was already there, running quiet drills before work. He watched from the doorway, noticing how each motion flowed into the next, economical and precise. She stopped, sensing him behind her. "Here to practice," he said. "If you'll let me." She nodded once and gestured to the mat. They began slowly. Footwork, balance, breath, no words, just rhythm. Sweat gathered, the sound of exertion replacing ego. Over days that became weeks, Derek's movements softened, gained grace. He started to listen rather than perform. Serena corrected him with minimal instruction. A small adjustment here, a reminder there. Humility began rewriting his muscle memory, Sensei Ito noticed. Discipline suits you, he told Derek. Maybe teach it as well as you flaunt it. Derek smiled without defensiveness for the first time. If you've been holding your breath since that first fall, maybe exhale and subscribe. Stories like this prove that real strength doesn't shout. It listens. A month later, a charity exhibition was announced. Proceeds for youth outreach. Sensei Ito asked Serena to demonstrate defensive techniques. She hesitated. Public attention was never her aim, but agreed for the students' sake. Derek offered to assist as partner. This time, he said, no showmanship. She nodded. When the night arrived, the dojo filled beyond capacity. Local news cameras waited, expecting spectacle. The demonstration began simply: balance drills, breath control, joint safety. Serena narrated with calm authority, explaining that martial arts was about prevention, not domination. Then came controlled sparring. Derek attacked with measured intensity. She countered, redirected, and subdued him with fluid grace. The audience, expecting violence, saw poetry instead. When he tapped out, applause thundered. Serena bowed to him first, acknowledging partnership over victory. He entered chasing redemption. She gave him something better: understanding. After the demonstration, applause still echoed through the rafters when Serena slipped quietly toward the locker hall. She preferred silence after attention. It was the only time she could hear her thoughts clearly. Derek caught up to her halfway down the corridor, towel draped over his shoulder, humility softening his voice. "I owe you," he said. She shook her head. "Just keep learning," she replied. "That's the real sparring." In the following months, something subtle shifted at Iron Path Dojo. The younger students started quoting her phrases instead of his. "Control first," they'd repeat during drills. "Respect the space." Derek found himself echoing those same words when he taught beginners. What began as embarrassment had turned into mentorship. Serena had done what no belt color could: changed the culture of a room. Outside of training hours, she still worked the same early shifts at the wellness center, still took evening buses across town. People asked why she didn't open her own school. She'd smile and say, "The mat is anywhere you stand with purpose." The humility wasn't a performance. It was armor against pride, the kind that dulls awareness. One Friday evening, a storm swept through the city. Rain hammered the dojo roof while students practiced their forms. Midway through class, the power flickered and died. Emergency lights glowed faint red. Sensei Ito called for calm, but a crash sounded from the storage area. One of the racks had collapsed under weight. A heavy beam trapped a student's leg. Serena and Derek reached him first. She directed calmly, voice steady amid panic. "Lift on 3, brace the side," she ordered. Years of tactical training returned like instinct. Together they freed the boy, wrapped the injury, and improvised a splint. The ambulance arrived minutes later, but by then the crisis was under control. The dojo had taught them how to fight. That night, she taught them composure. Afterward, Sensei Ito approached her by the doorway. "You carry discipline the way others carry weapons," he said softly. "Would you consider instructing full-time?" Serena looked around the darkened room, the mats, the smell of rain, the quiet gratitude in every student's face. For the first time in years, she said yes. News spread quickly. Within weeks, class enrollment doubled. Parents told their kids about the woman who never raised her voice, yet commanded a room of fighters. Local reporters filmed short interviews. When asked what inspired her to teach, she said, "Everyone starts somewhere. Sometimes humility is the hardest belt to earn." Her classes became less about technique and more about mindset. She'd tell them, "Every strike begins in your thoughts. You hit with ego, you lose balance. You move with empathy, you stay centered. The students listened, not because of her words, but because she embodied them. Months later, the Regional Martial Arts Council hosted its annual competition at a downtown arena. Sensei Ito nominated Serena as a guest judge. She accepted reluctantly. Among the participants was Derek, now competing in a higher division. He performed with quiet focus, each movement economical, deliberate, no flourishes, just clarity. When he finished, the crowd stood to applaud. After the event, he found her near the judges' table. "I think I finally understand what you meant," he said. "Power isn't the shout, it's the silence before it." She smiled. Exactly. The champion had learned that humility isn't surrender. It's the beginning of mastery. The clip of their exchange circulated online with the headline, "Black Belt Finds His Real Teacher." Comments poured in about grace, growth, and the beauty of discipline. Yet Serena never read them. She spent her evenings walking home under quiet streetlights, satisfied that respect had finally replaced spectacle. Years passed. Serena became a regional mentor for youth programs, teaching self-defense, confidence, and mindfulness. She spoke at schools about resilience, sharing her story without names or ego. Strength, she'd tell students, isn't about winning. It's about staying calm when everyone else loses their balance. One afternoon, Iron Path hosted an anniversary ceremony. Former students returned, now adults. Derek, now a father, brought his little daughter, proudly introducing her to the woman who taught me to stand tall. Serena laughed softly, bending to greet the child. "Your dad learned fast," she said. "You will too." The dojo walls glowed golden with sunset. Sensei Ito, now older, handed Serena a black belt embroidered with a single word: harmony. "Not for rank," he said, "but for what you restored." The room applauded as she bowed deeply, humbled by the gesture. That night, after everyone left, Serena lingered alone on the mat. She sat cross-legged, eyes closed, breathing in the familiar scent of effort and peace. The sounds of the city faded until only her heartbeat remained steady. She thought of the first day, the broom, the challenge, the fall that wasn't about defeat but discovery. Her story had become legend in whispers, the janitor who humbled the champion. But she knew the truth. No one was humbled. Everyone had simply learned. That was enough. As the lights dimmed, she whispered one last thought to the empty room. Respect is the quiet before every victory. And in that silence, Iron Path Dojo finally understood what it meant to be still.